Good evening, YouTube. This is my little shed. Just got done cleaning it up, which basically means sweeping out all the shavings underneath there. Just want to do a short video tonight explaining my process for doing bowls and spatulas and Christmas trees and whatever else that I do, cake stands. I'm what's known as a twice turn bowl turner, and I take wood like this. This right here this is a dogwood tree that a friend of mine cut down recently. This is some red cedar that smells so wonderful. Yeah, this is about 14 inches. Those all are. These are pieces of trees that I take and I process into the way you see it here. The ends of these chunks of wood have been sealed with glue, just regular old school glue. You can buy this. This is a regular white glue. I got this at my local Walmart. It was like $12 for this gallon of Elmer's glue. Anyway, this is my workbench. It's junky, it's messy, but I don't care if you see it because this is the real me. Anyway, these bowls up here you see, these have been once turned. Those ones up there, they're all pecan. Every last one of them. I got that wood in January of 2023. I let it sit outside too long and it ended up getting some bugs in it and whatnot. I ended up having to throw a lot out, but that's what's still left, and those have all been dried with glue, all of these along here. And here's one I rough turned today. This is a little piece of dogwood. Got a lot of high hopes for this. Got some beautiful colors in it, some different grains and things. So what I do is I've glued the end, put glue on the end grain. Of course, I put a date on it and the species in case I forget, because I might. But anyway, it came out of this stack of wood down here. I did 3 bowls from that. Anyway, mostly I do bowls. People will ask me, oh, can you make me a bowl? Well, when I do that, when they ask me that, I look up on my shelf and see, what do I have that's dry? And here's some more dried bowl blanks that I have. Back in there, I've got oak. In this area here, I've got oak, some sweet gum, and a little bit of birch. And you can see they're all different sizes because I make this from firewood. Firewood is whatever the tree is. These ones here are cedar. They're little cedar bowls. Now these little chunks here, these are little leftovers that everybody gets from cedar trees. Or from any tree for that matter. Just like this. This is a piece of birch. That's more birch. And then this is a little bit of the same oak that the bowls down there are from. So that's some actual pine that out of my backyard. That piece right there with the green in it is a piece of poplar from my other house from years ago that I cut down. But anyway, that's how I make my bowls. So you say I want a bowl, there's my bowls, my choices. You know, do I do custom orders? Not very much. Reason is because whatever wood I've got is what I've got. I don't do this full time. This is just my hobby. And I just, you know, I also make spatulas. These spatulas are oak, every one of them, and they're made from scraps that came out of the bowls that are over there. I just showed you. Excuse me. And here's my lathe. It's a Laguna 1524. I really like this lathe. It's got a 1.5 horse motor. It's 110 volt power, so doesn't need 220 plug. I can get an extension to put on the back end here to either make the bed longer or to drop it down and be able to do outboard turning of up to 20 inches. It's 15.5 inches from the headstock to the bed, and but if you put a 14-inch blank on there, that's pretty much maxing it out. So anyway, let me see if I can zoom out a little bit here. There we go. That's better. Sorry, I'm not a camera guy either. Anyway, I like to use traditional tools. As you can see, this is a hurricane bowl gouge. I think this is a 3/8. Here's the one carbide tool that I have. This is an Easy Wood Tools rougher with the round carbide. I need to get a new bit for it because it's worn out, but this is one of my 5/8 bowl gouges. This is a Crown M2 steel, but it's been cryogenically treated. This is a really good gouge. I bought this, I bought just the gouge, the bar itself, and put it in an old handle from one that was worn out. I recommend this 5/8 bowl gouge to anybody, and it's a 5/8 bar with a big fat U-shaped flute. This thing is a beast. It hogs out wood, I'm telling you. My other 5/8 gouge, which I would not recommend, is one from, it's a Wood River gouge I got from the Woodcraft store in Atlanta. And it's a V-shaped flute, which I don't like. And this is a hand-done grind on it. You can see it's kind of messy looking, but that's the only way I can get a decent, I generally use a jig for everything, but this is the only way I can get a decent shape for to use with this particular gouge, just because of the way it is. The steel's in it's pretty good, and I like the handle, but the flute shape, that flute form, the V-shaped flute, I don't know if you can tell right here, it's not parabolic. I don't care what they say. It's too tight. It clogs up with chips real easily. Whereas this Crown, man, that thing's a big old U. You can't clog this gouge up for nothing. And it holds an edge. The cryogenic stuff makes a difference in how well it holds edges. I'm telling you. I found it for myself. Now here's some more. This is a 1/2-inch spindle gouge I use quite a bit. I've been experimenting with the Richard Raffin, Tomislav Tomaszek style of roughing out with a spindle gouge. This is a 1/2-inch Benjamin Best gouge. It was cheap, and that's why I bought it, just to experiment with their style. And I'm getting the hang of it. This is another Benjamin Best tool. This is a 1/2-inch skew. I use this to do my mortises and my tenons, because this is my Nova chuck that has the same angle as this skew. Don't ask me how that worked out, but it works out great. But that's what I do. I get the raw firewood. I'll take it over here to when I get it cut up like that and sealed. That's one step, and I usually let it sit. I don't have time to go from tree to firewood to splitting it in half with the chainsaw, which is, here's my chainsaw, my little Echo 590, and then to the lathe, all in one step. I typically like to round things over on this bandsaw. This is my little Wen 10-inch bandsaw. If you're going to do what I do, get a 14-inch. That's all I'm going to say. This is a good little bandsaw, but it's underpowered for what I need. As far as capacity, the capacity's fine. You know, this has a 6-inch capacity under the blade, and that's enough for what I do, but it's only got a 1/2 horsepower motor. So go for a 14-inch saw. You'll get a 1 horse or a 1.5 horses or a 1 3/4, depending on what you get. Spend a little bit more money. I got this one used for $175, and it gets me by, but I'm hoping to upgrade someday. Anyway, I round it over on the bandsaw, then put it on the lathe, and then turn it around with my traditional tools, and I end up with this. And now this will sit on the shelf and dry for, I don't know, 6-8 months maybe. And eventually you get one that's dry enough like this. This pecan one was roughed out in December of 23. You can see a little bug hole activity right there under that's the last little tab of bark, but this one's ready to turn. So yeah, it's got a little split in it, but we can figure this out. So as you can see, now these pieces here, I don't know what I'm going to do with those. I thought about maybe doing pens at one point, but you got to buy jigs and you got to buy parts kits. So I don't know. They're just sitting on the shelf. Maybe someday I'll do segmented turning and get them cleaned up and glued together, or make a cutting board out of them or something. I don't know. Here's a tool handle I made that I have never used. So this is just some little jam chuck blocks here. I put in my chuck, and then put a piece of the non-slip padded stuff in there. And so clamps, I do a little bit of, I've made a cutting board, I've made some cake stands, so you need clamps, you can start gluing things together. But mostly I'm a twice turn bowl guy. Here's what I have for finishes right now, and everything is pretty much in one same vein. This is what I've been using lately, is boiled linseed oil. That's what's in this thing here. But I also like this. This is Howard's cutting board conditioner. It's a food safe product. It's good. But I put it on after I'm done sanding. Here's another nice good product I like, Howard's Feed and Wax. The two Howard's products you can get at Home Depot. I got this boiled linseed oil at Home Depot. But here's another thing that I've started using I really like. This is just natural beeswax. I have a friend who's a beekeeper, and he gave me this. I've been using this for months. I've put this on a lot of bowls, and I've even got more. Check out this big chunk he gave me. This is some beeswax that he melted down out of his hive that he left in his cooker too long, and it kind of started getting a little black on the bottom, and he didn't want to reuse that, because they reuse this stuff when they're making as part of their process of starting new hives. He didn't want to deal with it because it's so black and ugly and everything. But I'll tell you what, I've used this on bowls too. It works great. And here's one other product I got, is this wood wax from the Walrus, same company that does walrus oil. I like this too, and I think this is food safe as well. It's a white colored wax. I'm not dexterous enough to open it one-handed, but so if you don't want something as dark as the beeswax, that's a good option. Over here is my grinding station and my dust collector. This is a little wind dust collector. I like this. This has made a difference in keeping the dust down. This is a knockoff of the Wolverine jig system. You know, you put your gouge in here. These are your depth gauges here on this thing, and you set your bowl gouges in here, and you know. I'm trying to do more freehand sharpening. This side also came with it, and I'm trying to get in the practice of doing that more. I do that with my skews and my scrapers, but anyway, I'm no Richard Raffin. This is what I have for sandpaper. I use 2-inch discs currently, and this is just a little thing from the Hobby Lobby that keeps them all contained. And then I always have some sheet sandpaper too. And see here some. This is from Harbor Freight. This here is something that new turners, if you want to do twice turn bowls, this is something new, something I would think. This is a knockoff of what Glenn Lucas, his remounting plate. Kerry Corney talks about these. This is one I made myself, and I put this non-strip drawer cloth stuff on it. It works good. It's not big enough diameter anymore. This was for my old lathe, so this is only like 11.5 inches. I need to make one bigger from my new bigger lathe. My first lathe was one of the Harbor Freight lathes. And then here's something else I have too. This is a sanding disc. This is a 9-inch. Take standard 9-inch stick-on disc. These are just face plates on the back of both of these that I bought off Amazon. Here's another thing too. Get you an eraser stick if you decide to make a sanding disc like that. This right here is going to be probably seen in an upcoming video at some point. This is another flat bar of high-speed steel that I'm going to make into a shear scraper. These are my other tools that I have. This is my homemade bowl scraper. I've got videos on it on my channel. You can look it up. You know, this is the more the Benjamin Best starter set. You know, a lot of turners recommend not doing this. I got this for 80 bucks off Amazon. And I've used almost everything in here to some degree or another. This is the one bowl gouge. That's all that's left. So this handle is going to get repurposed for something else, I think. But this skew, I've used this skew a lot. That's what I make my spatulas with, or over there on the that I just showed you earlier. This is a round nose scraper that I'm still working on getting this working like I want. This was a point tool, or no, this is the, what am I looking at? This is the parting tool. I use this. This is a square end scraper that I made out of a point tool. But the steel in these things isn't too bad. This is a 3/4 continental gouge, rough and gouge. I don't use the rough and gouge as much because I don't do stuff between centers that much. And about all I do is like these little spatulas. I'll do Christmas trees. These pieces here will be made into vases, natural wood, natural edge vases, little bud vases. That's about all I do for spindle work. So I'm mostly a bowl guy. So if you want to be a twice turn bowl guy, you're going to have some stuff. Number one, you're going to have a chainsaw. You don't have to have a gas saw. You can get an electric one, but if you get logs delivered to your house, you got to cut them up some way. This one's got a 20-inch bar on it. The bigger you can get, the bigger you can handle, the better, in my opinion. That's just what I think. You do you. But you know, you're going to have to split your logs down the middle, cut the pith out. Some of these flat sections up here are pith pieces that I've saved and used for other things like spatulas. So this is a twice turn bowl thing. So when people ask me, how long does it take for you to make a bowl, Stuart? Well, it can be a year. And that's just it. This is more wood over here waiting to get processed. So anyway, that's just what I do and how I do it. If you got any questions, feel free to ask them. Be happy to have a conversation with you. Thanks for watching.